Every single message I received this week was about Cornell University. Cornell plans to resume classes in the fall with a mix of in-person and online instruction. That's not unusual. What is unusual is their rationale for doing this, which is that they say their internal researchers found that being on campus would reduce the risk of contracting COVID-19. This view, of course, runs counter to the prevailing view that colleges are uniquely suited to promote the spread of COVID-19 because of their combination of large classes, dorm life, social life, and extracurricular activities like sports, all of which bring people into relatively close proximity. Modeling by this team of researchers from Cornell found that 2 to 10 times more people could be infected with COVID-19 during the semester that was conducted entirely online, with significantly higher numbers becoming seriously ill. How could this be? Well, it turns out that their reasoning is based on surveys of their own students that showed that a large percentage of Cornell students plan to return to off-campus housing in Ithaca even if all instruction was conducted remotely. In other words, the students are coming back regardless of whether or not classes are online. But if classes are all online, Cornell would have no authority to mandate testing or restrict students' behavior in any way. Cornell's plan to have on-campus classes allows them to require that students agree to follow public health guidelines and comply with the testing program. There are a few different ways to see this. First, I should point out that this dovetails perfectly with the point I made in last week's video, when I pointed out that residential students are paying as much for the non-educational experience they get while they're in college as they are for the credential they receive when they're done with college. I suspect that this phenomenon is even more pronounced in a town like Ithaca, New York, which is a quintessential, vibrant, exciting college town that is probably a very fun place to spend your college years. I'm not in a position to evaluate the research that Cornell did, but the majority of the people who contacted me were fairly cynical about it, pointing out that it's interesting that what Cornell claims is best for the health of their students just also happens to be the option that produces the most revenue from those same students. My own view is that I find it puzzling why Cornell did not address other options. If they know that their students are going to engage in risky behavior, surely a school with the vast financial resources of Cornell University can devote significant resources to better educating their students, or otherwise incentivizing their students to act in ways that don't jeopardize their health. I'll also be very curious to see whether the same conclusions are reached by other schools using the same data about their own students. There are schools in the United States with student bodies that are nearly identical to Cornell's, situated in college towns of the same type, and therefore we would expect that if Cornell's methodology is sound, other schools should see the same kind of data from their own students and make a decision similar to Cornell's. Now, complicating the matter is that although Cornell has reached this decision, there obviously isn't internal agreement about the wisdom of that decision. A Cornell University survey found that around 1/3 of its faculty were not interested in teaching classes in person, 1/3 were open to doing it if conditions were deemed safe, and the remainder were willing but anxious to teach in person. It's not clear how Cornell can implement its decision under those conditions. And Cornell faculty are not alone. Faculty at other schools such as Penn State, the University of Illinois, Notre Dame, and a number of the State University of New York schools have signed petitions complaining that they're not being consulted and that they're being put back into the classroom too soon. So up to this point, we had a bit of a battle internally at campuses among one group who feels that resuming in-person instruction is dangerous, and another group that says that colleges have a duty to provide the best possible experience for their students, and in-person instruction is the way to do that. Now, Cornell's decision creates a third position, which is that in-person instruction, no matter what dangers it carries, is safer than the alternatives. If that view prevails, we will certainly know at the end of the fall semester if it was right. I hope that this information was helpful to you, and I hope that you are safe and healthy. I look forward to talking with you again next next week.